A confrontation between the Pope and revolutionaries in Nicaragua. An accident in Queen Elizabeth's motorcade kills 3 Secret Service agents in California. And NBC News has obtained documents indicating the Environmental Protection Agency helped the company profit at the expense of the environment. Good evening, I'm Chuck Scarborough, and this is NBC Nightly News. Pope John Paul II arrived in Panama today on day 4 of his tour of Central America and Haiti. Panama was peaceful, its people receptive to a papal sermon on the virtues of marriage. But the contrast between Panama today and what happened last night in Marxist Nicaragua could hardly be more stark. Keith Miller was there when the Pope came face-to-face with the explosive political tensions of the region.
Last night in Managua, the revolutionary government did exactly what the Vatican had feared. They turned the papal visit into an endorsement of the revolution. At the Mass site, the front rows were packed with supporters of the government. The Pope was aware that the Marxist rulers here were using his presence to legitimize the revolution. Billboards promoting revolutionary heroes flanked the altar. Some people chanted revolutionary slogans. The Pope demanded silence.
Unos minutos de silencio. Unos minutos de silencio.
One banner read, "Between Christian and revolution, there is no contradiction." But there is for this Pope, and he was determined to prove it.
Y don de Jesucristo.
John Paul said the church cannot be involved in politics. He criticized priests who become active in government, calling it dangerous and a threat to the unity of the church. Despite his condemnation, the government had the last word. They turned the Mass into a political rally. The Pope was warned about being exploited here. One Vatican official feared what Voltaire once said: "The Pope is an idol whose hands are tied while his feet are being kissed." In Panama, it was easier. The Pope met an adoring crowd. Still, his experience in Nicaragua led some to believe that he doesn't understand the complexity of this region. Although Pope John Paul returned to a more pastoral theme today, Vatican officials have been dispatched to El Salvador and Guatemala, attempting to head off what could be major confrontations with the governments there. 6 people were executed in Guatemala just as the Pope arrived in Central America on what was to be a mission of peace. The Vatican was outraged. Tomorrow, when the Pope visits El Salvador, he will challenge all sides to stop the shooting and start negotiating for peace. Keith Miller, NBC News, Panama.
The Pope's trip tomorrow to El Salvador and Guatemala is regarded as the most dangerous day of his journey by Vatican officials. Police in San Salvador stepped up tough security sweeps today after reports of a plot to kill the Pope in the next 24 hours. The church has taken casualties in that war-torn country. Just 3 years ago, El Salvadoran Archbishop Oscar Arnulfo Romero was assassinated during Mass. As Bonnie Anderson reports, the church is deeply involved in El Salvador's political ferment.
Leftist guerrillas in El Salvador say they welcome Pope John Paul's visit and hope the government heeds the church's call for a negotiated end to the war.
The arrival of the Pope to this country is important, for it could be the end of the war.
There are several priests who live with the guerrillas. They believe it is their duty to fight oppression, and they advocate social change through revolution. These priests represent one extreme of the division within the Catholic Church. Almost every Sunday, Archbishop Arturo Rivera y Damas, who represents the traditional church, calls for a dialogue between the government and the left. His position thrusts the Catholic Church into the middle of the most controversial political issues in El Salvador: negotiations with the left and continued U.S. military aid.
Optamos por una solución política.
If we don't attain a political solution, which would be sad, we would have to insist the military aid to the government and the guerrillas be stopped.
The Pope is expected to support the Archbishop's position. That support will not be popular with the extreme right wing, which strongly rejects negotiations with the left. Authorities believe right-wing death squads were behind the murder 3 years ago of El Salvador's Archbishop, a man who also called for negotiations. Salvadoran officials say they have discovered a plot to kill the Pope and that they are looking for 18 leftist terrorists. Skeptics question the reliability of the government's information. Security measures, however, are underway throughout the city. While government troops and guerrillas have called for a ceasefire tomorrow, officials are not taking any chances. Bonnie Anderson, NBC News, San Salvador.
In Warsaw today, Cardinal Joseph Glemp asked the Polish people to pray for their Pope's safety while he's in El Salvador. Papal security is only one problem for the government of El Salvador today. Its troops have launched a counteroffensive to save a key provincial capital 72 miles northeast of San Salvador. 2,000 troops have been dispatched to head off a rebel drive from their stronghold in Morazan province to the capital, San Francisco Gotera. And as the civil war grinds on, the Reagan administration intends to step up military aid to El Salvador. And as Fred Francis has learned, those plans include moving U.S. military advisors closer to combat.
The additional American military advisors, which administration sources say will number up to 150, will be deployed throughout the embattled country of El Salvador, assigned to every province. They will move closer to the war against the guerrillas, to the edge of combat, but not in action. Sources say the American advisors will train the Salvadorans in counter-guerrilla tactics. They will teach platoons and small companies of men to fan out into guerrilla territory on 4- and 5-day patrols. The advisors will direct the small units by radio in the classic search and destroy methods learned in Vietnam. It will cost millions of dollars, and the president plans to finance this new strategy by using emergency funds at his disposal if the Congress refuses to vote for more military aid. All that from a highly placed administration source who says the use of the emergency funds is a desperate step, but the president will do it. Thomas Enders of State and Nestor Sanchez of Defense are the point men for the administration to justify more aid. They testified to Congress last week that El Salvador and indeed America are imperiled if aid is not forthcoming. Enders on El Salvador.
If the military assistance is withdrawn, you will see anarchy in El Salvador.
Sanchez on the spread of communism.
I wonder how many of us stop to consider that El Salvador is closer to Washington, D.C. than is San Francisco, California.
The president has invited congressional leaders to the White House on Tuesday. He's expected to announce his decision on how the war effort in El Salvador will be financed and give his reason for increasing the number of American servicemen to go to El Salvador. Fred Francis, NBC News, the State Department.
In the battle to save the environment from toxic chemicals, did the EPA switch sides so a company could profit? An exclusive report coming up next.
In spite of backbreaking interest rates, record unemployment, and the worst recession in 40 years, we've done what the experts said couldn't be done. We built a new Chrysler Corporation. We built it on our faith in the quality of American technology and the spirit of the American worker. We built it on high mileage and front-wheel drive, on K-Cars and the LeBaron series, on the new front-wheel drive New Yorker and Dodge 600 ES. We even put a little sunshine in your life, and now the industry is following Chrysler. We build it on sports cars like the new Dodge Shelby Charger. And this fall, the only American front-wheel drive turbo on the road will be ours. The people at Chrysler have built a new Chrysler Corporation on quality. That's why we back every new car we build for 5 years or 50,000 miles. Nobody else does that, nobody. Think about that before you put your hard-earned money down. You can go with Chrysler, or you can go with somebody else and take your chances.
We're gonna get us some kibbles and bits. Kibbles and bits. Kibbles and bits. We're gonna get us some kibbles and bits. Kibbles and bits. Kibbles and bits. We're gonna get us some kibbles and bits.
Now get kibbles and bits or Kennel Ration Tender Chunks free. The coupon in this Sunday's paper is good when you buy any 2 bags of kibbles and bits or Tender Chunks. Give this coupon to your grocer and get a free bag of your choice on the spot. Nothing to mail. Buy 2, get 1 free. Fast, easy, instantly.
NBC News has learned that the Environmental Protection Agency protected one company's profits at the possible expense of the environment. Mark Nycanen has an exclusive report from Denver.
The EPA now bans the burial of liquid waste, but for 1 month last year, that ban was lifted. And according to EPA documents obtained by NBC News, officials of the company that owns the Lowry landfill near Denver were tipped off in advance by the EPA that the ban might be lifted. Stephen Durham, the EPA's regional administrator for 6 states, wrote this letter to a company official on January 15, 1982, telling him barrels of the hazardous liquid waste could be put in trenches in the landfill. Durham wrote, it is anticipated that there may in the near future be a temporary suspension of that ban. On February 18th, a little more than a month later, EPA Administrator Ann Burford lifted the ban. Because company officials had advance notice, they did not have to use a more expensive process to get rid of the waste. At least 1,500 barrels were buried here. When the ban was lifted, the company was set. The barrels were in place. They just had to cover them.
I presume that that's the case.
Durham says it was widely known the ban might be lifted. But citizens who live near the landfill say they were caught by surprise. So was Colorado Congresswoman Patricia Schroeder.
The people didn't have the prior notice to fight off the ban, whereas the companies had the prior notice to load up the area, to be ready.
After Burford lifted the ban, there was a public outcry, so a month later she reinstated it. This memo also is from Durham's office. A financial analyst for the EPA sent it to him 6 weeks ago. It says, in part, I will thoroughly scrutinize the regulations at this time to see if I can find loopholes in wording that will benefit all industries. Durham's response? Please do this ASAP, as soon as possible. Earlier this week, Durham told NBC News, there are lots of things I don't remember anything about. This is at the top of the list. Yesterday, he changed his story.
I was aware he was going through the regulations, looking for improvements in them, yes.
I never knew that people in EPA were there to look for loopholes. I thought they were there to protect the public.
This case is part of the congressional investigation of the EPA. Congress is trying to determine whether the agency is promoting the interests of industry at the expense of public safety. Many people in this area are asking the same question. Mark Knight-Cannon, NBC News, Denver.
Ann Burford today defended her record as head of the Environmental Protection Agency. She spoke in Denver to an audience of Republican women. Burford blamed the media for her troubles. She said, I'm pictured as being personally responsible for every drum of hazardous waste in the country. She got some support today from her boss, the president, at a lumber mill in Oregon. A report from Andrea Mitchell.
Even today, while touring a lumber mill, the president said Ann Burford would stay. Until now, senior aides had said that the president was standing solidly behind his controversial EPA administrator, although the staff felt that she was a political liability. But despite the president's comments today, senior officials now feel that Mrs. Burford has violated the first rule of a presidential appointee. They think she has been disloyal to Mr. Reagan. Particularly upsetting, her criticism of the Justice Department and White House decision to invoke executive privilege on the release of documents. One senior aide predicted that Mrs. Burford would be gone by early next week, unless the president's resolve to keep her is stiffened by press reports that his aides want her out. Another official said she is a disaster. She is hurting the president. She has to be fired. When another aide was asked today whether reporters should now start a pool on when Mrs. Burford would quit, he grinned and said, maybe that's a good idea. And a longtime Reagan aide said, the president stands behind his people when they are under attack, but he will not tolerate insubordination. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, with the president in Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Aides to Ann Burford said that she will have a private meeting with President Reagan possibly on Monday or Tuesday. President Reagan today called for a lower minimum wage during the summer months. He called it a youth opportunity wage, $2.50 an hour. Said it would allow youngsters to make a start in the workplace. The president stopped in Oregon today in a timber town, Klamath Falls, and he told leaders of the lumber industry that his economic policies are beginning to work. White House correspondent Emery King reports.
President Reagan came to Klamath Falls to highlight a lumber industry he says is back in the woods. He chose Oregon because unemployment has dropped here almost 1%, in part due to higher housing starts and increased lumber mill production. Officials acknowledge things are looking better, but caution that production gains are fragile. In a meeting with lumber industry officials, the president said the economy is finally revving up, that his policies will continue to bring down interest rates and inflation.
All this is good news for Klamath Falls, for Oregon, and for America. After nearly a 3-year slump, the forest products industry is coming back. I just left a lumber mill that has reopened, and I can tell you the whir of the machinery there was music to my ears.
And Mr. Reagan said he's not going to change.
They're still skeptical that we might go back to the old ways of the artificial stimulant and then the increased inflation. Well, I'd say over my dead body, but there are too many people willing to take me up on that.
Despite the president's optimistic outlook, industry officials were cautioning against a fast-track recovery. The White House went to some lengths to find a lumber mill open and operating on Saturday, and the workmen here were a little disappointed that Mr. Reagan did not spend more time. Emery King, NBC News, Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Well, Klamath Falls was hard hit by the long recession in the nation's housing industry. Lots of people out of work, lots of foreclosures, lots of bankruptcies. Things are better now, but as Dennis Murphy reports, the improvement does not run deep.
The plumes of smoke rising from the lumber mills are the best sight in Klamath Falls this winter. Logs are tied to virtually every paycheck in town. After 2 years of layoffs, sawmill workers are being called back. The big Weyerhaeuser mill is going 7 days a week.
Well, the lumber market in the last 2 months has been the best in 2 years.
The DG Shelter Mill, which closed for 3 months last year, is putting on an extra shift.
While the mills are coming back, unemployment here is still running more than 14%. 3,200 people in Klamath Falls are out of work.
Even as cut lumber rolls to market, the coffee drinkers at Bellier's Cafe tell stories of hard times.
There's just no jobs. There's no jobs to be had.
As of yesterday, I got furloughed again. I've been furloughed off and on for the last year and a half.
On Main Street, there are mixed signals about the economy.
It hit us hard there for a while, but things are getting better.
Merchants say business has picked up 30% in the last 6 months, but there's no waiting at the barber shop.
It's bad. We are hurting financially.
President Reagan carried 70% of the vote in Klamath County in 1980. Many of the town's business leaders believe Reaganomics was a necessary dose that will pay off for the country. The slogan of Klamath Falls is, "The best is yet to come." The town is waiting for more evidence that the motto will come true. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Incidentally, score one for the president's volunteerism campaign. Almost. The little town of Bayside, Texas, population 350, had its application for a federal grant for a new water tower rejected. So the town folks said, what the heck, we'll do it ourselves. They dug deep, came up with $12,000 for materials, and then the mayor and a bunch of volunteers spent 9 months building that thing from scratch. Finished it yesterday and began pumping water into it. When it was about 3/4 full, the tank split open and collapsed.
Every day, when people go out to get more business, they may, in fact, be losing business. To the Bell system, that doesn't seem like very good business. That's why we developed the concept of telemarketing. Using the most powerful communication network in the world, the Bell network, telemarketing lets you sort out the hot prospects generated by your 800 number.
I'm confirming tomorrow's meeting at 10.
Handle smaller accounts.
Style is the hottest number in the line.
And attend to customer service.
It's available at 3 stores in your area.
John, how many did you...
So that when salespeople want to leave to cover accounts...
Okay, Vic. We'll ship them out ASAP.
They're covered back at the office.
We'll ship out 80 dozen right away.
The telemarketing concept from the Bell system. Expanding your ability to communicate.
Romance can take you many places, but only so far. Beautiful as it is, it has limits. But desire starts where romance leaves off and bursts into something beyond. Something Silhouette Books now captures in a startling series about love. Silhouette Desire. Beyond romance, where the possibilities are limited only by your imagination. Silhouette Desire from Silhouette Books.
3 Secret Service agents assigned to protect Queen Elizabeth were killed in a car crash today while on their way in advance of the royal party to Yosemite National Park in California. Henry Champ reports.
The Queen had been told of the fatalities shortly before she arrived at Inspiration Point, a scenic view in Yosemite Park. Her press secretary said the Queen was extremely saddened.
We had to divert to avoid the accident, to drive round where the accident was. And as I say, she was very upset to hear the news.
The accident occurred some 20 minutes ahead of the royal motorcade. Ironically, the second car involved in the head-on collision belonged to the Mariposa County Sheriff's Office, and 2 deputies are listed in serious condition. Apparently, their car lost control in a flooded highway area and veered into the Secret Service car. Road conditions in the area were hazardous. The original route the Queen's party was to have taken had been closed because of mudslides. The accident clearly had an immense effect on the royal party. The Queen kept to her schedule but stayed only briefly at the scenic view before heading to her hotel, where she spends a private weekend before traveling to Seattle on Monday. Henry Champ, NBC News, Yosemite National Park.
According to a British official, Queen Elizabeth buzzed the Golden Gate Bridge yesterday in a presidential jet. The Air Force DC-9 carrying the royal couple performed 3 figure-eights only 500 feet above the bridge so the Queen could snap pictures of the royal yacht sailing into San Francisco Bay. Now, if those pictures turn out, the pilots could get a royal warrant. That's what you get if you provide especially good goods or services to the royal family in England. Very good for business, as Bob Jameson tells us.
The Queen's butcher, the Queen's baker, the Queen's candlestick maker share more than the same customer. They also share the privilege of a royal warrant, granted to 800 firms whose products have been chosen for use by Britain's royalty. The warrant allows a business to display the royal coat of arms and its legend, by appointment to Her Majesty, on its store and products. And it can be used, if done tastefully, in advertising. The holders of royal warrants, like Lobb shoemakers, would make a guidebook to London's most fashionable shops. Lobb has made shoes by hand for centuries. A pair today cost more than $600. $600. But Buckingham Palace has also given warrants for less expensive and more ordinary products, including Fairy dishwashing liquid, Coca-Cola, to a cement manufacturer, and to a company that makes sheep dip. The practice of royal warrants is rooted in history and kept alive by Britain's love of tradition, typified by Swain Aidney Brigg & Sons, whip maker for the Queen. Swain Aidney has done business from this store since the reign of George III, and its owner believes tradition is still just as important.
I say it's an integral part of English life. Certainly, I think to have sound roots forms the basis of any good family.
The warrant also forms a basis for good business.
It is still very much sought after by firms. They're very proud to get it, they're very proud to hold it, and they really hate losing it.
One way a shopkeeper can lose his warrant is indiscretion, to talk about what a member of the royal family buys. The warrant is no more jealously guarded than at Paxton and Whitfield's cheesemongers.
It's appreciation from royalty for your services.
And you never talk about what they buy?
No, this is strictly against the rules.
The royal warrant doesn't mean the Queen uses every product personally. After all, said Faulkner, you wouldn't expect the Queen to personally sit on a combine harvester. Bob Jameson, NBC News, London.
Coming up next, another look at that spectacular Hawaiian volcano and its river of super hot lava.
Yesterday, steak in San Francisco. Tonight, teriyaki in Tokyo.
Very international.
Right down to my card.
International. So worldly, so welcome.
I bought my baubles in Bimini.
So worldly, so welcome, so worldly, so welcome. MasterCard International.
Isn't Mom's steak delicious?
I like it, but...
Wow! I love this steak sauce! Oh, wow! This Lee and Perrin steak sauce is different. It's richer, it's thicker. It is so thick, you can spread it with a knife. We gotta get this Lee and Perrin steak sauce. Wow, it's delicious!
And another great taste is Lee and Perrin's Worcestershire sauce. It's the real one, the original, like you. Steak sauce and Worcestershire sauce for the wow you only get from Lee and Perrin's.
Get a feel for cotton. The way it always feels just right. The way it's cool to your touch. The way it practically takes care of itself. Once you get a feel for cotton, you won't feel like anything else. Look for the cotton seal on the Comfort Kale 200 sheets by Canon. Their natural blend for more cotton and easy care.
Australia has elected a new prime minister. He is Bob Hawke, a former union leader who won representing the Labour Party. Hawke defeated Conservative Prime Minister Malcolm Fraser, whose 8 years in office were troubled recently by high inflation and unemployment. A State Department spokesman said the Reagan administration looks forward to a close relationship with the new Australian government. The Zimbabwean government of Prime Minister Robert Mugabe cracked down today in a town that was a power base for opposition leader Joshua Nkomo. 2 people were reportedly killed in the raid on the town of Bulawayo. Hundreds of people were arrested, including a member of parliament. The world's most active volcano, the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii, was silent today, but a 5-mile flow of molten rock through the streets was a reminder of the volcano's fury this week. George Lewis reports from Hawaii.
Kilauea has stopped spewing lava. The streams of hot rock are cooling. Geologists believe that the mountain will not erupt again for some time. One side effect remains, a volcanic haze extending for hundreds of miles. Residents of the Royal Gardens subdivision below the mountain were permitted back into their homes. For them, it had been a scary week as the volcano put on a spectacular show. Fountains of lava 30 stories high. A river of molten rock 4 miles long. Roaring down the street, sounding like a locomotive. The first Hawaiians, stunned by these sights and sounds, believed that the goddess Pele made the mountain erupt when she was angry. Though today's volcano watchers are schooled in science, they admitted they too were awestruck. This woman is a kahuna, a Hawaiian priestess. Today she was praying to Pele for forgiveness.
She feels so bad, that's why I'm crying.
She said the angry goddess will bring her wrath down upon this area again. How soon is a secret. George Lewis, NBC News, at the Kilauea volcano, Hawaii.
That's our news for tonight. Chris Wallace will be here tomorrow. I'm Chuck Scarborough in New York. Thank you, and good night from all of us here at NBC News.
Want me to check on her?
I'll do it.
A family's future is what life insurance is all about. Sentry, one of the country's largest insurance companies, is often first with better ways to guard that future. Sentry's new comprehensive life plan, a universal life policy, is our special way to give you more for your money than ever before. That's more than protection. That's Sentry security.
It's 10 o'clock.
And all is well.
With Sentry, you know all's well.
I tell you, my wife's cooking is great for acid and indigestion. When you heard her come and get it, my house is try and eat it. My wife. Why, if you were cutting down on salt, she'd give you an antacid with salt in it. I mean, she never heard of Losal.
New Losal, the antacid that's so low in sodium it's considered salt-free. And Losal is twice as effective as the leading tablet.
So get good-tasting Losal. Call me when dinner's over.
More effective. New Losal from Philips.
Give your stomach more respect.
If you have to wait a week for business news, maybe it's not news anymore. The Wall Street Journal gives you today's business news today, so you can use it today.
Get all the business news you need when you need it. Get the Wall Street Journal, delivered every business day for 6 months for $47, just 37 cents a day. Phone toll-free 800-453-3300. That's 6 months, $47, only 37 cents a day. Phone 800-453-3300 now.